Hey guys, I'm Ryan Nitzen with Cycle News and welcome to another 2025 First Ride. This is the all-new Triumph TF 450 RC Edition. Now, we're here at the Triumph US headquarters just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, riding the all-new Triumph TF 450. So last year, Triumph entered the motocross scene with the TF 250X, and now they have upped the ante with the bigger brother TF 450. Now, right away, this bike is super impressive, and one of the things that Triumph reiterated last night is this is a ground-up new bike. So they could basically choose any parts they wanted to put on this bike. So you'll see KYB AOS forks, Brembo brake and clutch systems with steel braided lines. This is a universal frame from the 250 and the 450, so the same frame allows both engines to be bolted into it. You have a gripper seat cover with ribs. You're also going to get traction control, quick shift, launch control, and 2 different modes, all as standard. Now, what makes it the RC edition? So personally, it's not exactly a works edition or a factory edition like you'd see on the Honda or the KTM. This is the RC edition, so it has a few little trick goodies. You're gonna see an updated graphics kit with the number 4. You get some of the RC4 logos, Ricky's signature. You get the signature ODI RC4 bars with lock-on grips. You're also gonna get Dunlop MX34 tires as opposed to the Pirellis that come on the standard 250. Hole shot device, Hinson clutch cover. So you're definitely getting a few upgraded choice parts, but I still think this might be just a little bit more of a standard Triumph 450 rather than a Triumph 450 factory edition. If you guys hear the word edition and you're thinking it's gonna come with a bunch of extra stuff, it's not exactly, but you're also gonna be in at $10,995 MSRP. So at the same time, you're also not getting the huge extra price point like a $2,300 bump that you'd see maybe on a KTM Factory Edition or the Honda Works Edition. So a little bit of a fine line between the two, still some extra cool parts, but really excited to jump on this thing later today. A few other details about the Triumph 450 is a 239.6 pounds wet weight claimed, 61.5 horsepower, and like I said, the $10,995 MSRP. Another new offer that Triumph is out with is anyone who has a 24 250 is now being allowed to bring their bike back to the dealership. You're gonna get a free upgrade with the new mapping update and a few other warranty parts that they're gonna do for your bike totally free. So really cool that they're putting a lot of effort back into the dealership program and buyers who have already committed to the Triumph 250. A few other things that you're gonna have with the new Triumph is a new phone app to be able to do the mapping, tuning, traction control. You're gonna be able to adjust those things via the phone app. You'll be able to program a light on or light off standard on the new TF 450. The standard option is going to be the full power aggressive mode, and then the light on comes standard with a smoother option. But with the new phone app, you can there's 10 different settings you can choose from and to really adjust the power to your liking. There's no open source yet for as far as like creating maps and sending them to somebody else or downloading a map from Triumph. But we are gonna try out some different maps today. We've heard that Ricky has his own personal map that he wants us to try. So yeah, really excited to jump on this bike. There's a lot of new options. It's totally cool to see a brand new bike. Obviously it's based on the 250 model. Like I said, there's a ton of parts that they got to choose if they wanted. If you were gonna build your own bike, what would you put on this bike? So you get the KYBs, you get the Brembos, you get the steel braided lines, the MX34s. So really excited to ride this all new bike. Like I said, we're here at Triumph in the US facility. There's 2 different tracks we're gonna get to ride today. And yeah, we'll be back for a first ride review here in a little bit.
With all this talk about the GOAT, why don't we hear from the man himself?
What up, guys? Ricky Carmichael here. We're at the Triumph facility in Central Georgia. Really happy to be rolling out the TF 450 RC replica. Super excited about this machine with such an iconic brand. We have a lot of momentum going behind us, and to be out here at the global press launch is going to be a lot of fun to see the reaction of people like yourself and what you guys think of this RC replica bike. Really stoked on how it turned out. A couple points, got my signature ODI handlebars, ODI grips. We got the Hinson clutch cover. We also have the launch control here on the front for starts. Has a couple of my personal sponsors as well. Dunlop tires, customization of the ECU as well, and just really excited. It's kind of humbling, you know, to think of, to have an opportunity to have a replica bike. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I was telling somebody the other day, it's like I never realized how much of a 450 guy that I am, because throughout you know, the inception of the TF line of Triumph, it's always been like 250s. And as soon as I got to ride this 450, it was like, okay, I feel like I'm back at home. But I'm excited about it. I think it's a great bike, a lot like the 250, same chassis. So it's going to have a lot of similarities, which I just think complements the 450 engine. I think that this bike is very balanced as well as the 250. So your window is really, really big. So I'm excited to see what the reaction is, and to get it out in the dealers as well. And again, I hate talking about myself, but this is a great bike, and I'm excited at how it turned out.
Yeah, and it takes a lot for you to put your name on something. Last night you were talking about you needed the Dunlop tires, you needed your bars, stuff like that. So it's really cool that, you know, you've been able to put stuff that you actually had a real say in on a bike that goes into production.
It was cool to be able to have the say in what I could put on the bike. You know, we talked about my signature ODI bars. I like the bend of those bars. I like how it makes me feel comfortable, and I think anytime you're riding any kind of motorcycle, the more comfortable you feel, the safer you're going to be at the end of the day. The gripper seat, I think, is definitely a must, especially for me, so that's what we put on here. And then, of course, again, the small little customizations with the Henson clutch cover and the lockdown device there, and then, of course, the Dunlop tires. I've always been a Dunlop guy, especially the last 7 years of my professional career. They're great partners, and I feel like it complements the bike. You know, I'm fortunate to be in a spot to where I really don't put my name on a whole lot of things unless I truly believe in the product. Luckily that I am in that situation in my career, and I'm thankful for that, to have that option. So I couldn't say no to this deal, and it's something that I believe in.
Cool. We're gonna see you out there today?
Oh, I'm gonna be out there, yeah. So really excited, a lot like we did the 250 Global Press launch at Gatorback earlier this year. We're here at the Triumph facility. Great, not only to be able to ride the bike with everyone, but to see the commitment that Triumph has made with the facility and what they built and where they wanna see this program grow.
All right, guys, wow, what a day. I feel like I'm ready to move to the East Coast and ride some red dirt, because I had so much fun today riding the new Triumph TF 450 RC here at Triumph's US headquarters. We had 2 different outdoor tracks to ride, and yeah, the dirt here is just so much different. There's just traction everywhere. A little bit of rain yesterday and today, this morning, so a little greasy, but yeah, overall really impressed with the bike, especially for their first crack at a 450. It's yeah, pretty impressive. It's definitely on par with a lot of the other bikes in the class, and I'm really bummed that this bike just barely missed the timing for our 2025 450 shootout, because arguably this bike is the most anticipated bike of the 2025 model year. So I'm going to jump into it with a couple different talking points about the engine, suspension, overall package, things like that. So let's get into it. All right, so as far as the engine goes, I'd say this bike feels very similar to one of the Austrian bikes, like a KTM or a Husqvarna. I think after just jumping off our 2025 450 shootout, I'd say it feels very similar to the Husqvarna. It's very smooth on the roll-on, has a good mid-range pull, and then has a lot of over-rev, kind of similar to the Austrian brand bikes. I'd say the torque, I was lacking maybe a little bit, and so what I did is they had another map program for us today, which was the Ricky Carmichael tune map. So it had better throttle response and then kind of smoothed out the mid-range. And I rode with that most of the day. I was really happy with that. And then later on in the day, I just wanted a little bit more torque. Like I felt, for the track we were on, I left it in second gear pretty much the entire track. I think I had 1 shift point the whole track, and just so easy to ride. You can carry your speed really well. The engine braking is not a lot, and so it's very easy to guide it into ruts and carry your momentum. but I just wanted a little bit more torque. I was kind of feathering the clutch a little bit in some areas, and so I misspoke earlier in the intro of the video talking about the maps for the bike. And with with the new phone app from Triumph, there are 10 different pre-programmed maps that you can play with. So there's different riding levels, and then there's different track conditions. So you can play with both of those. And so the one that I was suggested to roll with was the Expert. I know, Expert level. Pretty excited about that one. But that one just increased the torque and then kind of increased the hit of the motor. And so while also keeping everything else the same. So like engine braking and traction control and things like that. So that was honestly, like, it was a big improvement and it made a lot of difference. I was very happy with that. I could still kind of keep that second gear roll through everywhere, but the response and coming out of some of these ruts and some of these tighter turns had more torque and more response. And so that was definitely my preferred map for the day. So with these bikes, you have traction control, quick shift, launch control, and normally I'm not really a fan of any of those modifications or modes, but I actually really like the quick shift on the Triumph. I've been riding the 250 a lot back home in preparation for this event, and the quick shift is the best one in the game. I guess there's just this or the KTM and the Husqvarna, but the quick shift on this, you hit a gear and it keeps the revs up really high. On the KTM, I've noticed you rev it really high and then you shift it and then it drops back down in the RPMs. And on the Triumph, you just click it and it stays right in that range where you want it. And I think that probably comes from their experience in the road racing world and all the road bikes that they've created, and the quick shift technology basically has come from that to this. And so yeah, I'm not normally a fan of the quick shift, but on this bike, I actually really like it. It just makes it a little easier. You don't have to let off the gas to shift. You just leave it on, boom, boom, boom. And yeah, nice to have that on board. All right, so just like I said about the quick shift, I'm not normally a big fan of the traction control, but the conditions this morning were a little bit deep and greasy, deep on top, and then you hit the hard bottom and then it gets real shiny. And so I opted again for the traction control, and I noticed noticeably the rear wheel had less slip on some of those jump faces. You get in, you slot into this rut, and the rear wheel, you can feel it spinning off the face. And so with the traction control, I could visibly feel it not spinning as much and actually kind of retarding the rear wheel and giving it more traction. So once I felt that, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep running this for the rest of the day. It doesn't interfere with the riding really, and just made it a little bit more confidence inspiring on some of these tricky conditions. It's hard to tell, or it's hard to hide a fall here on the East Coast in this red dirt. But yeah, I hit the deck once just in one of these big long sweeping ruts. And yeah, after that, just kept the traction control on. So I had the full dash light up. I had the traction control, the quick shift, and the Ricky Carmichael mode engaged. And yeah, the whole suite of electronics were in use today for sure. Moving on to suspension, this bike has KYB AOS forks up front and then a KYB shock out in the back. And I like the function of KYB stuff. I think it's the most comfortable stuff on the market. And so like Triumph said, if you're gonna build a bike, you know, what parts do you want? You want the brakes of a KTM, the Brembos. You want the suspension of a Yamaha with the KYB. And so they've kind of paired all these things together. And yeah, the function of it's really good. We did a lot of tuning today, I feel like, more than I normally do at an intro. With these conditions, the ruts are so long and really deep, and I've just felt like the rear end was kind of squatted out too much at the 102 millimeter sag mark that they recommended at the beginning of the day. And so I just felt like the rear end was kind of sitting low, the front end was a little high, and then the front tire was just a little bit vague. And I've noticed I really like a lot of front tire bite, especially in these long ruts. I want to be able to really feel the front wheel and drive through the corner. So what I did is I went up in the sag. I went to 100 millimeters to get the rear end to sit up a little bit higher, played with the high speed in the rear, and then that actually got the rear end to sit up a little higher, put more weight on the front fork and front tire, a little bit better traction throughout the corners. This also put a little bit more load on the front end, so we had to go 2 clicks in on the fork to get it to be a little bit stiffer, which is not what I normally do, but needed to keep that weight up on the front wheel. And so that really helped a lot. You can jump this bike, you know, long, short, feels fine. The suspension works really well. The balance of the bike is really good. It feels light in the air and on track. And at 240 pounds, call it, is their wet claimed weight, It's right on par with some of the other bikes in the class, like the KTM, the Husqvarna, the Gas. So it feels light in the air, on track. You can move it around. The frame is responsive. It tracks really nicely. That's what one of the things I was most satisfied with was just these long ruts. Being from back on the West Coast, we don't normally get these kinds of conditions that are just like the whole turn is a rut. And so you're able to just sit in it, and the bike doesn't want to stand up or fight you. As long as you place it in the rut nicely and keep the throttle just cracked on a little bit just to keep the bike planted, it carries you through the whole rut super easily. And the cockpit is narrow. The gripper seat helps keep you in place. So yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that you're gonna see with this bike is what would you build if you could start from scratch? You would take this of this, and you take this of this, and this of this, and you mash it all together. And I feel like that's kind of like what the Triumph is. You get all the electronics, you get the best suspension, you get a really strong motor that's super easy to ride. I think a lot of guys are gonna enjoy riding this bike. It's so simple to ride. Once I got over, some of the learning the track, it was just, you could just burn laps, and you're not fighting the engine. It's not too overly aggressively fast. And with some of the maps, I'm sure you can tune that a little bit more and get a little bit of a more aggressive feel if you want that. But for a first run at a 450, I think they did a really good job. It's really fun to ride, and I think you guys are gonna be really happy. One thing that I really liked about this bike is the foot pegs. They're probably the sharpest pegs out of a stock OEM. They feel like aftermarket, so I'm really pumped on those. They're really sharp and really grippy. Just one thing that I noticed that was really good. Yeah, no real complaints on the bike today. It may be a little bit lacking on torque out of the low end coming out of the corner. But other than that, you can mess with that in the mapping, and then obviously with the new map installed, which you guys can get through the phone app, it's gonna be able to solve that issue, and yeah, you'll be ready to roll. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. That's gonna wrap up our first ride here at the Triumph US headquarters. We just wrapped up the TF 450X. Wearing some new Liat gear this week, so really pumped on that. Thank you to Liat for helping us out this week. Yeah, be sure to stay tuned to cyclenews.com for more, and the Cycle News magazine, which comes out every Monday night for free at cyclenews.com. Drop your email in the subscription list, and you get a totally free issue every week directly to your email. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys next time.